Welcome to the modules for instructional strategies, brought to you by the Georgia Department of Education. In this module, we will look how students can demonstrate mastery of the Georgia Standards of Excellence Standard Social Studies World Geography 3, Element D, through the use of a sample lesson with ideas and resources. The standards for this activity include Social Studies World Geography 3, which reads, evaluate how cooperation and conflict among people influence the division and control of the Earth's surface. We will also look at Element D, which reads, explain how political, economic, and social networks and organizations of global power influence places, countries, and regions. The examples provided include the United Nations, NAFTA, the African Union, the European Union, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the 1961 Antarctica Treaty, and non-governmental organizations, as well as social media. The sample activity in this module will not only satisfy the standard to be covered, but also allow students to demonstrate understanding of connecting themes and enduring understandings that cross multiple units throughout all social studies courses. The enduring understandings for this module include governance, which reads, the student will understand that as a society increases in complexity and interacts with other societies, the complexity of the government also increases, and individuals, groups, institutions, which states, the student will understand that the actions of individuals, groups, and/or institutions affect society through intended and unintended consequences. The activity presented in this module will have students, first, identify various political, economic, and social networks and organizations. 2. Report a brief history and purpose for each one. And 3. Demonstrate how the different organizations have influenced their member states by researching at least 2 distinct characteristics. The teacher may choose to select the characteristics, but should at least include 2 categories. Some suggestions include the economy. Students will compare how the economy of a particular place has changed since the creation, establishment, or since joining a particular organization. Also, population. One can choose to see how the demographics have changed of a particular state or country. The student can look at how the population has increased and perhaps compare this information to neighboring states that might not have joined or belong to said organizations. Step 1. So to begin, the first step is to select and identify which organizations you want the students to research. I recommend having students identify at a minimum of 2 political, 2 economic, and 2 social organizations. The teacher may choose to have a list from which the students will select their organizations, or simply have the students conduct their own research. A simple Google or other search engine search using the term supranational organizations will yield many viable results to investigate further. A supranational organization is an international organization or union in which member states transcend national boundaries, or interests to share in the decision-making and vote on issues pertaining to the wider grouping. Step 2. Students may choose to organize their information into a table or any other form that would be appropriate given the student's performance and readiness levels. An example of how to classify these is shown here. As you can see, in the left column, I have placed the acronyms for several different economic, political, and social supranational organizations. What I would typically have the student do in the next columns to the right would be to first state what the acronym stands for, then how many countries are involved. Keep in mind that some organizations, such as the European Union, have many member states. If this is the case, I usually have the students select the top 5, in other words, the most dominant countries in that particular group. And lastly, I would have the students indicate what is the main intended purpose. Is it economic? Is it political? Is it social? Or more than one, such as NAFTA and the European Union. Here is a quick list of where many of these supranational organizations are located. Step 3. The next step would be to divide the class up so that the individual organizations can be researched further, and either assign or have the students select an organization. Have the students write a few sentences on a brief history over the organization, a little information about the actual members, and a little more detail about the purpose of the organization. Step 4. The final step in the activity is to have the students report on how the organizations have influenced their state. This can be achieved by having the student identify and explain what laws or rules these organizations now require their member states to adhere to. Additionally, the student should be able to demonstrate how the different organizations have influenced their member states as previously stated. The students can also look into changes in the member state's economy and demographics. To show economic and population change, direct the students to the World Bank webpage. This can be located at www.GeorgiaStandards.Org. Once there, click on the Data tab located at the top. Then locate the search bar, which should be in the middle of the page. Type in GDP, and you will see that a drop-down menu will appear. Select GDP Current US Dollars. Then select the country being studied, and you can track the economic growth through the years. For example, if I were to select Algeria, I could track its GDP growth going back to 1960. As you can see, in the 2003-2005 period, it started to increase with a sharp decline during the recession of 2008, and this economy is moving back up with another sharp decline in recent times. To show demographic change, you can still use the World Bank webpage. Once again, click on the Data tab, and in the search box, type population growth. Here again, you can do the exact same thing we have done to look at GDP. If I select Algeria again, you can see that its total population has risen and has had a sharp decline in the 1980s. And in the early 2000s, its population growth has begun to increase again. Step 5. Present the information. Allow the students to come up with their own way of presenting the information. This freedom allows the student to think critically about which way would be best for them. It is also a great way to differentiate the activity. Be sure, however, to create a rubric with the minimal expectations you, the teacher, require for them to present in an effort to have the students show mastery of the standard. This concludes Module 7.